Would you like to offer an invocation?
Yeah.
I'll wait until you're done. I know, right? All right, welcome everybody. So this is our special town hall meeting. Today we don't have to call this to order or take roll call. This is an open meeting, an open forum for everyone to share their thoughts and insights on some of the utility rate changes that we've had proposed. We've had one town hall meeting prior to this one, which was not televised. This one will be. So if you're comfortable talking on camera, you're going to be live today. But before we get started, we would like to ask Gloria to offer an invocation.
Okay. Father, during this week of Thanksgiving, we just come before you with grateful hearts, and we're grateful for the city of Perry, grateful for our friends and neighbors, grateful to serve in this capacity and to be able to hear those that we care about and their concerns. And Father, we just ask that you would just bless us tonight, give us ears to hear, give us hearts to receive the information that's been given. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gloria. All right, so before we get started opening up more for folks to ask questions or share their insights, I have asked Nate to kind of give us a report on, in our last town hall meeting, there were some questions that were asked that he needed to do a little bit more research on. And so he's got some of those answers prepared and some of those questions ready answered for those folks that had asked that. So with that, Nate, we'll turn the time over to you to address those, and then after that, we'll open up for everyone.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mayor. So some of these questions were answered in the last town hall, but they were confirmed, and so I'll go ahead and just read some of the questions, some of the answers from that last town hall meeting. So the first one was, we had a question about that tree overlay that we accomplished. How much did it cost? How much would it have cost if we had hired to do it? The answer to that is it ended up being about $19,000 in hard costs for us, meaning the materials and the equipment rental. Evans quoted us $40,000 to do that, so a little more than double. And that's if we had done all the preparation, they just came and laid the asphalt. So that answers that question, I guess. What amount of cash is on hand for like a rainy day fund? That was asked last time. I confirmed the 1.25 million. We do have other cash in CDs that's collecting interest, but that cash is restricted for specific projects. For example, the hospital project. We have the hospital project renovation began last week, and so we have the cash on hand to help fund that project. But having just begun, we haven't paid that out yet, so we're collecting interest on the money sitting in the bank, but it is restricted. We can't use that for other purposes. So that's what the remainder of our cash in hand is it's in restricted funds for specific projects. Somebody asked about the asphalt, the depth, and the temperature. The depth ended up being about 3 inches. It varied depending on, if there was a pothole or whatever where we were filling. I have no idea on the temperature. Let's see. Somebody asked about rate increases needed to break even. So as I talked about in the first council meeting where this was all presented, our water and our sewer department are negative 1.4 million each year for their operations. And so it would require a 52% increase in those utility funds in order to break even. So you might be asking, well, where do you get the 69% from? If it just requires 52 to break even, well, 69 comes because we need to do more than just break even in those departments. Those departments should be breaking even. They should also be allocating money for capital projects, and they should be transferring money to the general fund for your police, your fire, your library, those departments. And so that's where we get from the 52 to the 69% increase. What grants are being applied for the specifically for the water projects was asked. We're looking at a principal forgiveness opportunity. And that is up to $1 million. So you borrow money and principal is forgiven after a certain amount of time. And we're looking at doing that in combination with a $600,000 CDBG grant. So that will help offset some of that cost. And those are two of the grants that we're applying for. Let's see. Somebody asked what other big capital project things we have in other departments, not just in water and sewer. Tyson, if you could share my screen, I'll walk through some of these. I know that's pretty small, I'll read it very well. So for the water projects, I crossed that off up here. We've already gone through that pretty extensively.
No, we don't have.
For the, we have a lot of other projects or equipment needed. So we need a bucket truck in the electric department, that's $109,000. We're allocating $30,000 every year to replace a runway. The reason we're doing that for the airport is because the FAA actually pays millions of dollars to help subsidize that, and they require a 5% match on our part. 4 used pickup trucks for water, streets, cemetery. Roofs and building updates is about $200,000 is what I'm guessing. Streets building, we're allocating $40,000 a year to build our streets department a building that we're going to build for the materials we've looked at are about $80,000, and then whatever it costs to construct that. Filter media replacement of the water plant, so this is for the water plant updates, but it's what's super pressing, $150,000 for that. Various small equipment for $50,000. We have a new dump truck needed for streets. The 2 dump trucks are very old, and if we're going to continue to do our own streets, we need reliable and more dump trucks. That's about $120,000. A large roller for streets. So the roller we have works great, but unfortunately it's too light, so it doesn't impact the pavement to the extent that we're going to need to for some of these more busy roads. That's about $15,000 that we're looking at. We have about 2 AC units that are going to need replacing every year. I had every department through and say, okay, what's the age of your AC unit? What condition is it in? How much are you spending on repairs on that? And just talks through that to kind of look ahead. I figure we need to replace about 2 a year, which is roughly $6,000 a piece. Ambulance 14 needs a replacement, $250,000. So these are some of the projects that I am looking at in other departments. It's not a comprehensive list, there's more than this, but those are some that are really pressing and coming up on us for a total of $1.1 million. So we do have plenty of other projects in addition to this water line issues and residual pond issues. Additionally, we've looked at employee raises and said, okay, what do we need to do in order to get our employees to a market level? We're having a huge retaining problem, especially in certain departments where pay has become really competitive in recent years. For example, police, fire, and EMS. And so we're looking at, well, what's it going to cost to get our employees to the market, what other cities are paying, so they're not leaving Perry for other cities. So those are just some projects and some funds. I think this is really important. One person said, I feel like the water projects, although top of the list, are a smokescreen for all sorts of other projects needed. My answer to this has never been about the water projects. The water projects are a direct result of Perry not increasing our rates with inflation. We've lost $15 million since 2008 due to inflation going up and us leaving our rates pretty flat. And so because of that, we haven't been able to do all these other projects, including the water projects that are so pressing. But that's not the issue. It's not that the water projects just come out of nowhere. It's that we don't have money to do those because we haven't matched inflation. So we're not attacking the water projects as the issue, we're trying to attack the deeper issue. And this graph kind of shows that. Since 2008, you can see the red line's inflation as it's gone up over time. We had COVID, in 2020, and we saw a huge spike for inflation then. This blue line is our revenues, what we charge, our rates. And you can see that's fairly flat over time. We've had a couple increases here and there, but nothing close to match inflation. So the city has been, for many, many years, 2008, just eating that cost in order to spare the residents from having to raise rates. And that is not that's not a permanent solution. You can't always do that because eventually the city runs out of money. And that's where we're headed. Somebody asked how many miles of water lines still need updating? So we focus on these 5 miles of water mains. Those are important, those are central, and that's 5 miles. But there's actually 30 miles of lines that need looking at. The mains are just our top priority. People ask what are the economic development projects being worked on? There's a truck stop at Sooners Corner, a housing addition at the old elementary school site, which is, if you were here for that special meeting just prior to this meeting, that's what that one is about. There's a housing addition at Lions Park for 4 homes there. And then everything else we've been working on and our meeting with developers is in the beginning stages. It's really not appropriate to discuss until it gets further along. And then next question, what are some of the ordinance work for having more housing options? The council and staff has been working to pass specific use ordinances and planned unit development, which essentially allows for multifamily housing next to single-family housing next to residential. It just allows for more flexibility. That's something we've looked at. And then the last question that was asked is, if you look at the water department and you break out $1 spent in the water department, how is that broken out? And this is the answer to that. So personnel services, so our salaries and wages insurance, is about 22 cents per dollar spent, goes for that in the water department. Materials and supplies, 13 cents. Other charges and services, 6 cents. We have capital outlay, which you can see how small that capital outlay is. I think it was a penny. It's not enough. Debt service, so 33 cents per dollar for debt service right now that we're paying. And that is for the Lake McMurtry, the water line extensions that happened I don't know, several years ago before I started. So. And then this last portion, 25 cents, is going to the general fund to help fund your police, your fire, your parks, your library. So that's $1 broken out in the water department. So those are the questions that I had that I remembered. If there's additional questions that you have that you asked that you didn't get an answer to, feel free to approach me afterward, and I'll write it down and make sure you get an answer for it.
All right. Thank you, Nate. Council, real quick, does anybody have any questions that you've heard in talking to others?
I just had one question about the bulk water sales and how this would affect them.
They're a separate ordinance.
Huh?
They're a separate ordinance.
Yeah, so we will increase this, but it's not through this particular raise.
Okay. Well, with that, everyone that's here tonight, if you'd like to either raise your hand or stand, we'll kind of take turns. If you have questions for the council or for Nate, you are welcome to ask away, and we'll do our best to address those. This is an open meeting, an open discussion, and so the time is now yours.
The 1.25 million rainy day fund, you went through it kind of rapid. I mean, I know some of it's already allocated to, something, but how much money of that 1.25 million is available to be dedicated towards this water project?
So the 1.25 is not restricted. That's unrestricted. All the other money I have is restricted. So the 1.25 theoretically could be used for this tow project. The issue with doing something like that is about a month worth of operations of the city. So we like to leave, a month really isn't much of a rainy day fund. The experts say that personal finance you should have 3 to 6 months. For municipal governments, it's actually higher, it's 6 months to a year. And that's what we're shooting for, is a 6-month rainy day fund. We're obviously not there. So to answer your question, theoretically, all of that 1.25 could be used. Now, does that leave us any money in the account to spend on operational expenses as they come through? It wouldn't, right? So that there would have to be a way to refill that 1.25.
I think another issue with that, kind of based off of what I understand on this so far, is, you know, if we spent the 1.25 million on a project, the issue that we would then face is how do we replenish what we just spent? Currently, the water department, for example, is operating at a deficit. If we spent that money on a water project, we don't have any incoming funds to help replenish that rainy day fund, which is something that we're trying to prevent from happening. And
maybe it's a couple weeks ago at that meeting, I think Grady may have suggested it, that 30% increase as opposed to 69 and 89, apply the rainy day fund, take on the 30% increase over time, you know, and revisit that in a year.
Right.
Maybe look at a 10%. Have y'all done that deep into, I mean,
And that is something that we've asked Nate to prepare and put together for us, looking at that 69%. Again, how can we change that into, how do we do that over X amount of years? What would that look like? And so that is something that I think you're gonna prepare and present to us in our next meeting?
And council meeting, the first council meeting, we'll talk rates again, and I'll present maybe a couple different options of doing, you know, an upfront that's large enough to cover the costs that we need, you know, immediately, and then splitting the other, you know, amount we need eventually over the next 2 years or whatever, or 3 years, you know, I'll present a couple different options.
Right. You do have another question?
I say 69 and 89% increase may solve these problems in the short run. But in the long run, it's creating a bigger problem for you all, or for the city, because it's so prohibitive that you're gonna start seeing businesses fold up, and you're gonna start seeing residents feel the need to move someplace else. So you're gonna have a big loss in the long haul. This outrageous increase is fine for the short term, but if you look at the long term, you're gonna lose a lot of city residences, and you're gonna lose some businesses. So you're gonna lose in the long haul. I think this 30% proposal is will be much more effective in the long run. Because we're getting choked bad enough as it is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me introduce myself. I'm Tom Trumbull. I'll be 95 years old in 2 months. I lived in Perry till I was 20 years old. I left for the festivities in Korea, came back, moved to Stillwater, and then I went back in the Army and retired as an officer. But since I'm kind of a living history book, some of the questions I have, in my 90-some years of living, the population of the United States has really increased. When I was a young man, little guy, there used to be signs around the old highways that said population, Perry, 5,000 or less. For some reason, which never been explained to me, why is it still the same? Now, is it because of your predecessors not doing something? I don't know. Then another thing is, has anybody made a study of what these people here in town can afford and how much money they make and how their money goes? If they cannot live properly, they will probably leave. And then if something has happened to the business in town, what happened to that? Another question I have, we have a big manufacturing plant, and most people don't live in Perry. So what can you do to bring people back? And then another thing, with modern transportation, people don't shop in Perry. My friends say, "Oh, I'm going to Stillwater." Well, unfortunately, my wife has been in a assisted living home in Stillwater, and I go with her frequently. But, and things are cheaper in Stillwater. Thursday I was over there, gasoline there was $2.49, so I thought, well, what was it in Stillwater? $2.21. So there's a lot of things that need to be studied and analyzed to get this town back in shape. If not, I never saw so many empty buildings in my life in this town. And I know you were not part of it, but why did the little Walmart leave? And keep increasing the rates, although it's necessary, if the people have the income to live, and then be gone, and you're gonna have a ghost town in about 10 years.
Hence
So-
this ghost town proposal, increasing the rates.
And
Will create a
so,
ghost town, more
then
than what it
another
already
thing.
is.
although it doesn't concern you, you've got an aggressive county assessor. Most of the people in this town do not have children in school. My tax bill, since I live in Fairway, is $3,200 a year. My school taxes are $2,715. And I've been here for 15 years, and I can give you a history story why I came back, but that's not necessary. But here, I'm paying $2,000 a year or more, and I get nothing. So, when I lived in Texas most of the time after my retirement, and they freeze school taxes at age 65. And so with what you're going to give the people in increases, and what the county assessor gives everybody increases, it's going to be a tough hold for some people. So I think you need to do that. Also, I don't bank here much because I get a better deal in another town in Oklahoma on savings and all that. So that's another thing. The banks here are kind of greedy. And then one other thing, since I moved 11 times in my military career, I've never seen so many fees on utilities bills in my life as here. You have invented a fee for many, many things. And like the availability of water and electricity. I never heard my parents talk about paying anything but the water they used or the electricity they used. So that's just one of the things. But I'm kind of, I will say this, that very good homes are hard to sell. There's one in our neighborhood that's been on the market 2 or 3 times, and they even lowered the price $40,000, and it's still sitting there. So there's a lot of things that I think need to be studied and figured out, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something, not so much for myself, because a rate increase, I'm not thrilled about that, just like everyone in this room, but my name's Luann Hunt, and I've worked in social service for over 42 years. And so I'd like to speak on behalf of the people who probably don't have an option to move anywhere. I did a little figure on, I pulled up some poverty levels to talk about some people that really are going to be devastated. You know, the rest of us are going to be, oh man, I'm not going to McDonald's this week or 3 times next week or whatever. These people are going to be devastated. I did a figure of a case I actually worked on where their income is $1,035. Their rent is $600. Their utilities were $269. Then when you, I estimated the rate increase, it will leave them with approximately $33 for extra spending, and that's an actual case I worked on.
Build the put.
People, you know, we talk about people need to save, you know, have that emergency fund of their own. These people can't do it. They can't do it. It could be your neighbor, it could be your mom, your sister, you know, it could be anybody in this situation. And my concern is, it's not only going to be detrimental to them, but to our town, because we might see homelessness. We might see people on streets or searching for a couch to sleep on, or a storage unit. I had someone tell me they stayed the night in a storage locker. It's here in Perry right now, and I can't imagine what it will be when the water bill increase at an unreasonable rate. And even with people staying in accommodations that pay the water bills, they're paying on an average $700 and $800 a month to stay in those accommodations. You know the person is going to pass that on to them when the water increase comes. And, you know, it's going to be very difficult, and I don't think we can just leave those people wandering around or to move in with one another or being late on everything, and then they're penalized because they're late. So, again, I do appreciate these town meetings like this. I think that's a real opportunity that we do have to come and discuss the landslide that this is going to cause. You know, even now I take 20 applications a month, and I fill up within the first 4 or 5 days. I have a waiting list. I just, you know, in all my years, I've had concern for people, but I think this is at the point it's going to really be detrimental to lots of people, and they don't have the ability. Some of them don't have transportation. They don't have the ability to go anywhere else, and these are your elderly, mainly elderly and disabled people. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I want to ask, because part of the proposal, and this was reported not fully when it first came out. So what was proposed to us in the beginning was a 69% just on the water. But in those calculations, were you able to figure in the decrease on the electric as well?
You talking to me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hunt.
Oh.
Or did you know what?
Oh,
that
no,
the-
I didn't know about that.
Okay,
I
yeah.
just did mine on it would be on this one,
Right.
about a $45 increase.
Oh, okay, that average.
On the water.
Gotcha,
No,
gotcha.
so I didn't know, there is a proposal for a decrease on the electric.
Okay, yes. So in that, what was originally proposed to council was a 69% increase on the water, and then it was about 41% water and sewer. But then the electric, what was proposed that it would come down 41%,
The base rate.
the base rate, 41%, just to kind of help offset that. Now again, with that, I mean, the council has asked the city administrator to take another look at that and come up with other proposals for us to look at. But that's what was first proposed, because we had asked, you know, what would it take for the city to get that water deficit fixed, that we can start setting aside some for the rainy day fund.
Okay, no, I
And I-
can't figure that in.
Overall, the
Right.
change in the overall rate is 14%.
Right.
Including everything.
Right.
Your total bill, an average of 14% increase overall.
So can we take a bill and just like, I'm math dumb and I'll be very honest with it. I take a bill and just show us numbers on that. I mean, I mean, my bill is very low because I deliberately keep it low.
Mhm.
I mean, I sit in the dark, I don't run my air conditioner. So, and I do laundry once a week. So, if that. So, I mean, I keep things low on purpose, and I can do that because I'm single. I can't, I mean, these families that some of these we work with, I know that, but I just need numbers. I need to see numbers. It's not, I figured mine up and my bill's gonna go up $60.
Right.
And, I mean, that's not a lot, but that means that I'm not going out to eat and I'm not going to do these, and I mean, I'm just, Ms. Trumbull, I did research numbers. Our per capita income for City of Perry is $29,817 for 2020, and these are 2022 numbers, that's what everybody's like to get. The median household income for the City of Perry is $61,410. We have a poverty rate of 10.6%, which affects about 480 people in the City of Perry. That's a lot of people. And I know we get that, I mean, the food pantry, I volunteer for the food pantry, and that, you know, we've seen an increase in numbers, and I know that we're gonna see more of an increase in numbers because that's where people are gonna have to get their food.
Right.
And we're just a supplement, we can't afford to fill somebody's pantry, we can only
Right.
supplement. So I just need to see numbers, because what I figured on my bill, and I just need the numbers on it.
Right, yeah, so the total effect would be that 14%, correct? Nate?
Yeah,
Yeah,
my bill,
on-
so
right.
example of my bill for numbers, last month, my bill was $222, which, if you do that 14% on that, I believe it's a $31 increase.
I just did mine for September. My bill in September was 95. If it went up 14%, my bill would have went up $27.30.
So, I guess I never saw or heard the 41%, because I saw $3.89 or something like that, and I'm like, I didn't realize, so that's,
You want my bill?
I mean, $3.80, I don't equate how that equates to 41%, I guess.
14%.
And
Is the
again, I
total
don't
effect,
and I'll be honest, I don't
Right.
understand what these are.
Right.
Well, I think there's no doubt that this all could have been done clearer and
Right.
better. I think the goals of this whole council is to try to be more transparent and communicate better. And this has really been a education, I think, for several of us, that there could have been. I do applaud you guys for coming to these, and the
Yeah.
main reason we wanted to have these meetings was so we could put a proposal out there and have some feedback. I do want to address some of the things that Tom said, though, because this wasn't something we decided to do on Tuesday and then did Wednesday morning.
Right.
We've been studying this for months. We looked at not only what the effect might be, but we also looked at what other cities are charging for water. We were rock bottom, way below everybody else. I do like the idea of kind of easing into it, but as a council, we're real nervous about, we don't want to end up like previous councils where for 17 years we didn't keep up. Quite truthfully, it made me very angry when I got on the council and saw that for 17, almost 18 years, we didn't keep up with what we should have been, and it wouldn't have been this big, painful deal. I mean, think back, last one had a full week with no water because the water system is in such bad shape. And so, you know, one of the things Amy said, we have to worry about that 10% that this is really going to impact hard. But as a council, we've got to worry about the 90% that could be without water, or could not have safe water to drink, or could not run a business for a whole week or 2 weeks because the water's not fit to drink, or they can't get it. And so we're trying to weigh all of those things across the board. The other thing is, I will tell you, this group is very aggressively trying to figure out a way to bring housing. I know some of you didn't get to see it, but the gentleman was here before. We're trying to bring contractors in and find grants and things to try to raise that population, because you're right, you get more people here, all those bills get spread across more people, it costs less money. And I like the idea of trying to figure out how to ease into it, because very few of us can pay for a car or a truck or all in 1 year now. And so that we were trying to eat the whole elephant in 1 year, and I don't know if that's the best approach.
Well, I don't think it is I mean, you can't fix 17 years in one.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into, some of these businesses and you raise your rate 69% or 1% or whatever overnight, you're gonna lose people. I mean, and as Ms. Hunt said, there's people that can't leave, and, you know, you're gonna lose tax money, you're gonna have your rate increase of people not paying their bills, and, you know, that's my concern and my fear, and
I think the other thing that we need to point out is, one of the things we looked at was water and sewer rates of cities across the northern tier of Oklahoma.
Well, that
It's-
doesn't do anything.
And so I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that we're not increasing our sewer and water rates above, we will not be the highest priced city in this area.
Well,
So for people to pack up and move because their water and sewer bill is too high, they may be moving into a city where their water and sewer bill is actually
missing the
higher.
point. It's ability to pay. I don't care what the average of the whole county is. It's ability to pay. And if you don't have people with income, the ability to pay, you're gonna be in deep trouble, just like the lady said.
I agree with you.
So your
And if we can't
main-
deliver water to the ones that can pay, we're gonna be in deep trouble as
Yeah,
well.
okay, but your main objective is to try to get some businesses in this town and provide adequate housing so people will come. This town is full of wore-out houses. They're all older than
Absolutely.
and there's plenty of them empty, they need to be torn down, and I drive around town. I used to deliver papers all over this city for about 2 years, so I remember what the houses were, and I know what they are now, and they haven't been properly maintained. So your thing is, and I'll say one more thing. You don't need to increase improvements in that hospital until Stillwater Medical increases the proficiency and the abilities of the staff. And I can give you a first-hand thing about it.
Amen.
My wife had a heart attack in June of 15. So what I do, I rush her to the medical center. I fiddle around people over there and getting everything ready. If I'd been smart, I would have rushed her to Stillwater and she would not have all the problems from the effect of a massive heart attack today. She has lived a miserable 9-year life. So you're wasting your money of improving that hospital when it cannot give you good service, okay?
If Stillwater leased the hospital, why are we paying all the upkeep on it? And the repairs and the upgrading?
Yeah.
Let
They have
them
a
do it,
bad
they want it
reputation
done.
here in town amongst Stillwater.
Yeah.
Medical has a very bad reputation in this town.
So,
People are gonna hold that against them.
so,
They're not going out there.
no,
I'll go to Enid first.
well,
Just- that's
they go
just the
to
way it
Enid
is.
and they go to Stillwater, yes.
You know, when we talk about
They put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. and
And
Folks ain't got over it yet.
right, when we
I go
talk
out
about
there
the,
every week, every Monday morning. I go for blood tests and stuff because I had open heart surgery. And the warfarin is a mess. But there's, a lot of times, there's nobody else out there. And I still have to wait. And when I do get into the lab, I've got bruises on my arms from 3 weeks ago. We need some people in here who know a little more about what they're doing. I went out there one evening, I was having chest pains. And I went out there in the afternoon. They kept me 4 hours and did nothing but tell me to be careful drive home. No blood test, no nothing.
right, I'm sorry to hear about, you know, the quality of service with that, but when we talk about the funds that the city spends on the hospital itself, the city does own the building. And these renovations and improvements that are being done are renovations being done on an asset that the city owns. Stillwater Medical doesn't own the equipment that's being purchased to go into the hospital. They don't own the building itself, the city does. And that money that's going into that hospital project is an investment on an asset that the city owns, not.
No, it's really not, because you're getting nothing out of it.
And as now that the hospital is now an REH hospital, that renovation was it was a requirement.
But no matter
The Water
how
Medical
great
Center
you
gave
improve
that
the hospital, if they don't improve the staff, then what have you done? Nothing. They, there's a rent-a-doc out there. You know that?
Mhm.
You get a different one every week and you don't know what he knows, or what his specialty is or anything. So if you hit it right, you're okay. If you don't, then you hang around and get evacuated somewhere.
And to be fair, that started before Stillwater.
Huh?
That started before Stillwater.
Yes.
That was being done long before Stillwater came in.
Although the hospital is a real important part of the city, can we get back to the water issue?
Yes.
Yes? Uh-huh.
Have we, what is our bonding capacity? Have we discussed that?
Or what?
Our bond capacity?
Or bonding capacity?
I asked, so I sent, and I remember that question, today I sent an email to our CFO and I haven't heard back. But I can definitely reach out to you individually after that. I'm sorry I got to that one too late.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I had heard that there was going to be new housing on the old Mugler farm, which is on Locust, and the old school ground, which is on Ivanhoe, I guess, yeah. And then nothing happened.
So the homes on Ivanhoe, the old school, that was part of the meeting that we had just prior to this. They are putting in 28 homes on that lot.
What about all the houses, the brick houses they built around town that aren't sold or rented? They're sitting empty. They built 9, 7, 8.
Mhm.
My taxes went up drastically.
Yeah.
And nobody's getting any good out of them, except whoever built them. And some of the people who live down there now who did buy houses, down on Grove Street. They bought houses, now they're leaving. They're going to Stillwater and renting apartments.
Some has to do with the cost, because they were told the houses were going to be $150, but when they were done building, they went up to the lowest of $2,000 as insurance and all that went up
Turn
with
that
it,
sucker off.
the income. But they also talked about the rent tremendously
Let
took
me
a
call you
jump
back,
also.
I'm in a meeting.
And they couldn't afford it, and then that other thing was brought up, it says, why did we build all these 1 and 2 bedroom houses when everybody needs a 3 or 4? Prices of everything jumped so high, it's nobody's pay that lives here.
Inflation's hit in a lot of places.
Manager.
Interest rates have hit in a lot of places and slowed down some of that. But our goal as a council is to try to build a variety of houses.
So how is the other small towns around us doing it, and we're not?
Why are we not getting some of these houses that caught fire and burned as high as 3 and 4 and 5 years ago? They're still sitting. They haven't been cleaned up, they haven't been anything done. Nobody wants to be next to them because it stinks every time it rains.
Well, that's because
Amy?
Somebody had texted me a question. Are the churches going to be taxed, the business or the residential rate increases? I mean, that's something else to think about is, because we've got a lot of small churches and that's, so here I'm gonna pay my utility and then I need to tax or tithe more so that my church can pay their utility bills.
That, I don't know, I'm not sure how they're
commercial.
They're commercial.
Is the base rate for a water meter going to go up?
Not in this proposal.
Excuse me?
Not in this proposal.
Okay. On residential and commercial both?
Correct, yeah. Not for a meter.
So will there be a new structure of levels of water that's consumed?
Wait, are you talking to install a new meter or are you
No.
talking the base to have a
No,
meter?
the base to have a meter.
That will, yeah. That'll increase by the same percentage as the other rate, so 69% with that proposal.
Really?
Yeah, sorry. I
So a meter
misunderstood.
that's costing me $42 is now gonna cost me 60 some bucks, just because all I have is water. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you, yes, it will increase by the same as it
Is that right? and I don't use drop water. If I don't use a drop water, I'm going to pay $70 just to own your. Is that what you're telling me?
I can't speak to your specific.
No, I'm telling you what my meter cost me is $42. Just the meter, this water. And so I don't have anything else, so it's gonna cost me over $70.
That's just access, Grady?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I.
Is that right?
If you want me to,
And that's current proposal.
I was gonna say, that's just the proposal that's on the table today.
I'd say that the rate increase is exorbitant. Anytime you have a rate increase, you need to make it an easy one to swallow for the people. And this is not an easy one to swallow. 10% is a lot. So even when you do your average you're talking about, it's still, to me, the 14 or 50 or the percent you're saying after the average with the electric and everything else, bringing that 69% a little bit easier to hear. But if you just said 10% all of a sudden, I think that's outrageous. But that I could swallow. But these outrageous, I mean, anytime you are going up, I don't care if you're in the service industry or if you're a restaurant, I don't care what your business. You need to raise it. I remember when someplace went from, what was it, $1 for coffee to $2, they lost all their coffee drinkers. You just can't go up all that much in one fell swoop. It's a difficult situation to try to solve for people who are apparently are really giving it your all. And I appreciate that a lot. But are we talking how many years where they weren't giving us increases and now all of a sudden, all at once? I don't know, it just seems that,
Fishy?
huh?
Seems fishy?
Well, no, it's just that somebody else wasn't doing what they should have done, so that you wind up, you people, in this position to like scramble for where is this money gonna come from? And, but really, it's just too tough to swallow this huge, I can't even believe
There is a
that it's
person,
being proposed 89% on the businesses. I wonder how many of the businesses could even survive that. And ghost town, more of a ghost town than what it already is what I consider this. If it goes through, we're going to be more of a ghost town, then where's the money gonna come from?
Right, we hear what you're saying. I mean, and please remember that, this council, we're also citizens of Perry. We live in Perry. We have businesses. I have a hotel as well. This is going to affect me, my business as well.
Sure.
One of the issues that we face, for example, this, as we mentioned, this past January when we had the water mains break because of the freezes. We're going to continue experiencing that year after year when we have these freezes until we can get these fixed. Now, what's been proposed, the council has asked for that to be readdressed and reevaluated to take a look at. If we take a small increase, or if we divide it up over time, what we are also doing is prolonging how fast we can fix the water mains that are kind of ticking time bombs underneath us. We have to also take a look at how long can we prolong this, and how many more years do we want to keep having freezes. Now it is difficult. I am with you to do this all at once. Right, and so we've asked to take another look at it. How can we spread this out over X amount of years? But at the same time, we do have to keep and remember, what are we going to do each year that we spread this out if we do have those water main breaks.
Is there,
Rob from Peter to pay Paul. Tread water over here so that it's not so,
Right, right,
devastating and, what's the word I'm looking for? To just like
right. Yeah, to take it all
over
on
here,
at once.
tread water here for a year or two.
Right. Yeah, and that is something that this council is wanting to take a look at. We saw this issue and, we experienced it this last year. And so one of the things that we're wanting to take a look at is, okay, how can we prevent this from happening in the future and what's that going to take? again, trying to take this on all at once, that's gonna be really difficult on us as citizens. But at least we know now where we need to be, so how long can we spread this out over time so that it isn't a big punch in the face for us
Because
up
it
front.
sure is a big punch in the face.
Right, yeah, and even as businesses, it would be as well, not just residences.
I have a neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
an elderly lady, believe it or not, older than me, who turns her water off at the meter. She put rain barrels out under her gutters. The only thing she uses city water for is she turns it on to fill a jug for drinking water every day, and then turns it back off.
Mm-hmm.
And you say something to her about it, try to help her. No, I don't need your help. My daddy taught us to do this ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Danny, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, kind of torn on it a little bit, because it's, I mean, we gotta fix it. It's a problem, it's gonna have to be resolved. I don't know if it's an 89% and 69% solve right out of the gate. I think maybe we look at it, sharpen our pencil a little bit. I know you guys are proactive. I appreciate the fact that Nate actually took what we asked last time. That's the reason why I was here. I just kind of came tonight to see kind of follow-up answers were going to be for the questions last time. The fact that he showed up and had answers and presented them and had graphs and the whole deal, I think the transparency is probably one of the biggest, dark clouds that is hanging over this council. And it's not you in particularly, I think it's just your predecessors. No one knows, Obviously, things are happening because I was here early enough that I got to see those guys stand up. And one of my biggest issues in this town is housing. And it really made me happy to know that there's 28 unit proposal that's actually fixing to put a shovel in the ground and make it happen. Because what that's going to do is, like I said before, we bring these people to town and then we can spread this deficit over a bigger swath of people, and it's not such a big hit. The elderly people and the low income, everybody that just cannot afford it, that is this thing's going to change their world. I feel bad for them. You almost want to stair step it in a way where because my hobby is working. I'm a sick individual. I work all the time, so a $30 or $40 a month isn't the end of the world for me. But I also have people that have talked to me, like, seriously before coming here, want me to ask a bunch of questions on their behalf, and I've been real quiet because a lot of the questions have kind of manufactured themselves, just regular. But they're scared because they live on a fixed income and they just don't have the money. There's nowhere to pull it from, where we, you guys, and a lot of people in this room can make things happen, make adjustments, they can. But I know it's going to have to happen. One of the things that I did want to bring up was that valve on the 15th Street tower. I was talking to somebody the other day when we were at lunch, and they had said that the valve, you can find the valve. Did anyone ever get an answer on that? I know the guy that runs the water department now can't answer it, but I think we maybe believe that the guy before him knew where it was. I think that's a pretty simple fix if somebody would just kind of dig into it and figure it out. I know it's came up 3 or 4 times, and it just doesn't seem like it's that impossible to figure out.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you can't do streets. I mean, this water deal is going to be a holdup, especially the infrastructure portion of it, because you can't really fix streets until you fix the water and the delivery system, because what are you going to do? Dig up a brand new street to, replace the main. So I know it is time sensitive. I appreciate you guys trying to figure it out. My biggest thing, though, I would like to maybe hear more about some different revenue streams coming into the city. We just got to work on, instead of pulling it out of the pockets of the citizens every time, I would love to hear some ideas, even if they're just crazy ideas that can maybe be funneled down into something realistic of finding ways to generate revenue in this town, because right now we're kind of a one-trick pony with the electric bill. We're out of money, raise electric, out of money, raise electric.
Right.
And I get it. I mean, you can only pull from the buckets you got, but I'd like to maybe see some more buckets, because I think
Lighten
Perry
up on
has a
some
lot
of
to
the
offer.
codes, maybe. Lighten up some of the codes. I had the intention. I came down, I had a beautiful metal building that I wanted to put in. I have 2 lots, 2 separate addresses. And so, if I had been able to do that, that would have been some permits that I had to pay and whatever else. I was told I couldn't put it on a lot by itself. Why not? Nobody understands why I could do that. I couldn't put it on its own address. I had to combine my 2 addresses. Well, that's a whole nother address. It has all the hookups. I could put a house on it any time.
How does that go, how does it go with what I was talking about?
Well, because that's another place to get revenue. If codes get lightened
Yeah,
up a
but the
little bit,
revenue that
that's,
you're talking about is generated from the citizens. The code falls back to the citizens of Perry. I'm talking about
yeah, but you get
economic
something.
development
Having
revenue
that
as well.
outside
So-
dollars. And just also to remember, you know,
It just led me to think about that. Just
No, I got
recent-
that.
Recent, I would have been paying some fees, and I couldn't, so I said lighten up on some of the codes, and maybe you'll get generated more fees
No, but I
for
think
people
to,
that can.
but I think to address some of the things you're talking about is as part of strategic plan, one of the corridors that we want to work on is that I-35 corridor, because it's a real opportunity to bring dollars and tax revenue from people that don't live here. They're either traveling through to eat or they're traveling through to stay. And so our goal is to try to develop that area more. But one of the things we've got to realize is our engineer was here just two meetings ago and kind of walked us through the water situation. Even those 28 homes that we're talking about are going to jeopardize our water system because we have to ratchet up the pressure. And so, I mean, all of this is tied together. I mean, I'd love to do landscape on my yard, but if my plumbing is leaking, I've got to fix my plumbing first.
Well, what I'm saying,
And that's where we are
Randy,
today.
I know we need to address this problem because it's urgent. I'm just saying after we fix this problem.
with you.
Right.
Because obviously
Right.
you can't add to the load without fixing the carrying, you know what I mean, get that. And I have property in the I-35 core too. I'm a big fan, let's develop it all out there. But I just would like to see that maybe once we get past this emergency, until we wait for the next emergency.
Right.
Let's try to see if we can maybe generate some different kinds of revenue.
Well, I don't think we're not waiting on getting revenue, other revenue sources. We're doing it at the same time. I mean, we're not holding this guy off from bringing something in because we can't accommodate him. We're welcoming everything that we can get. So, I mean, that's pretty evident in some of the development that we've already got.
Including looking at some of those ordinances that were mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
right. And one of the things that I've learned since coming on council and getting involved in the government, how the city makes money, where those revenues come from. In Oklahoma, municipalities, cities do not receive property taxes. None of the property taxes that we pay go back to the city. The only forms of revenue that a city has, their main ones, are the utilities that they sell and the sales tax. With sales tax, a lot of those sales taxes are restricted for specific uses. So you might have a 1% sales tax that's been dedicated for, 15, 20 years that has to go towards a HOS project or public safety or other things. You can't use those funds
You
for...
can't necessarily, in other words, rob from Peter's
Right.
bell.
And when it comes to sales tax, unless that sales tax has been put in place as general fund, it can be used for whatever. The sales taxes that we currently have, there's one for a general fund, right? But it's small. It's like a penny.
1%.
Yeah, 1%. Yeah, 1% sales tax can be used towards
The general.
general fund, general things that we do
How
bring in.
much does that mount up to?
600,000? Yeah, about 600,000 a year. To cover, to run a city is a lot more than 600,000.
Right.
And so we could institute more sales tax, but that would bring in some outside dollars, but that is also still a burden on our citizens as well.
Hey, I'd rather pay that 1% than 69% a month.
Right,
Already paying
right.
almost 11%.
I thought that was
1
reduced
cent,
because
not
of
1%.
state tax.
Right, not 1%, 1
1
cent.
cent.
1 cent.
Right. Oh, look what I'm,
Right.
oh, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it doesn't bring in a lot, especially when you talk about a water project that's going to cost $5 million. you know, there's a lot that goes into that. So, kind of going back to what the revenues for the city makes, those are two main sources. If we lightened up on the codes per se, you know, that would be very small. That'd make a very small impact. Would it help the citizens out? Yes. Would it help businesses come in? Good. But
It would have
Right.
generated a little bit of revenue
mhm.
from my project. And I don't know how many other people have been turned down for projects because whatever, nobody can explain to me, or everybody thinks it's outrageous, that because it's a separate address, it has possibilities for hookups.
Right.
And I was to eliminate that address and combine the two.
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna do that.
Mhm.
You know, that would be foolish. And so nobody can explain why I couldn't put a building on my empty lot.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and everybody's just, what? Why
Mhm.
not? And I don't know why not.
Right.
So, but if that would have been a little bit generated, I don't know how many other people
Mhm.
have been turned down for projects that would have been a little bit generated.
Right. Right. And
I
kind of
don't
go
know,
back
let's
to
put
the
a cup at the cash register.
right. See if that helps. So going back to the sales tax, you know, we still have a couple years before a sales tax rolls over or expires, and that we can renew. So we still have a few years before we could reallocate a sales tax towards capital projects or towards general fund. You're right, and those are
Another thing that I
restricted.
think is important to say is that Oklahoma is the only state in the nation that does not get ad valorem taxes.
Right, the property
Does not
taxes.
get what taxes?
That Oklahoma is the only state in the nation that does not get ad valorem tax for their municipal governments.
It's the ad what tax?
Ad-
Ad
Property
property
tax.
tax.
Property tax.
Yeah.
Property tax.
Property
ad
tax.
valorem, I've never heard the word.
Also,
Right.
when we have a town meeting like this, we would also enjoy having suggestions, ideas that you might have to help us raise income. And one of the things this chamber has thought about, as long as I can remember covering it, is to make it a destination city. So if we could come up with ideas that would bring people into town as a destination city, wouldn't that be a way to raise taxes?
We have a
Maybe all of
wonderful
you could
train
sit out there and
depot.
think ways we can do that.
We have a wonderful train depot. I remember once upon a time, but I don't think it was promoted properly, that there was a train that came and stopped, that we could have been on that little tourist route. I don't know how to describe it really, but I didn't know that it was happening that day. And it was only that one day.
Right.
Had I known that it was just a little trial run to see if I could accommodate, I'd have been out there and showing people around town, you know, or something. It was a great idea. So there's something that didn't work but could get revisited.
Right.
What is there here that would bring people in?
Do the cities have the ability to borrow money one way or another, bonds or something like that?
We do. There are ways that city can borrow money. A lot of times, those grants, those bonds, those loans require the city to put up something as collateral. So let's say a sales tax. We have to, you know, for a grant for example, we have to be able to put out or show that we could put in X amount of dollars to get a grant or to get a loan.
If you had bonds,
Mhm.
you could stretch out the payments over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but you'd get the money up front to do the projects y'all want to do.
Right.
Have you thought of that?
Right.
We have a few times.
I don't know whether it's legal or not.
So the current 1 cent sales tax, I believe it's 1 cent, don't quote me on that, for the water project for McMurtry. That done with bonds. The 1 cent that was on streets a while back, that was done with bonds.
Okay, well, why
And-
aren't you doing it now?
We're
still paying
we're paying those back.
Huh?
Right.
We're paying those back.
I know.
The other thing that we get into is
How big a bond are you eligible for?
those dollars are,
Huh?
in Oklahoma, are usually used by the county and the school district. And so when the city steps into that pool, the county and or school districts feel like we're imposing, and it raises the taxes for everybody on there along with it. And that's why the city tries to avoid that type of taxation.
Well, that's, yeah, because.
Because it just adds to the overall bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're talking about either paying on your grocery bill or paying through your water bill, right? Either way you're paying.
But that's the way people buy things, they buy it in time and pay it off.
Yeah. We would probably have to debt service these water projects.
Yeah, we'd have to find a way.
Oh, I'm still concerned about the water. If you're gonna build 3 new houses, probably going to go to younger families that are gonna use more water than somebody my age. What happens when they use all the water and there isn't any for my part of town? And I've been there 20 years.
Then we'll wish that we got the water project, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't want us to all leave here feeling negative or bad, because to me, this has been a great process. We put a proposal out there. The good people of Perry have spoken and said that the proposal we put out there originally is not going to be acceptable. We're going to go back and evaluate that. We spent the time to dig into what was causing this, and when we looked at electric rates, we don't need to touch electric rates. Historically, what this town has tried to do is pay for everything with electric rates, and so, you know, there are lots of things going good. I mean, this is an aggressive council that is trying to get people here to build houses. There are things going on. You know, we have several big events downtown in our square, and we have several consultants come in and go, your square is a beautiful place.
Yeah, it is.
You need to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And so we're working hard to try to figure that out. And so there's lots of exciting things going on right now. I mean, there's activity at the interstate that for years never was happening. We've got two car dealerships out there that actually are lit up when you're driving by at night. And so people are more eager to pull off and spend money. We're going to go get this figured out. And we're going to try to make sure we do it in the best way that we can without hurting some people abnormally, but also making sure that the good people of Perry have clean water and they have it when they need it. And that no business ends up closing because for 2 weeks they couldn't get water because our mains were broken. And as far as our water system, we're using, the way I understand it from our engineers, we're not even using half of our tower capacity.
Right.
And it's because we can't handle the pressure in our system right now. And so if we can go out and fix these mains that would leak under that pressure, we've got the capacity to grow. Our electric system is in good shape. We've got the capacity in our water system if we got a few things fixed. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening. And I just want to let all of you know that we do appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us, because this is how we learn. And this is how we continue to grow. And so I personally appreciate all of your input.
Let's beat another horse for a while. Streets. You say you're paving streets? How are you deciding which street you're gonna pave?
That is a good point. Let's come back to that. We had someone else that had their hand up earlier, but we will come back to streets.
That kind of goes, I've got on the street too, and I think the street department did a good job when I can see on streets they did.
Fifth Street, right?
Yeah, it looks good. Be feasible for the water department. Maybe not with the manpower they got, but try to do some of the main lines in-house, like the street department's doing. You know, they took it on themselves to do the street. Is there any reason the water department could look at doing some of the main lines themselves?
5 miles would be a pretty big project for them.
I'm not saying 5 miles all at one time.
Right. But to do it over time.
Yes.
What about when the water department is fixing a main and it's just one street's width with 4 or 5 colors on a clay water main? Why not just replace it instead of going back, redigging it, and just putting another color for it to split out? Because I know y'all pay them to set up shop 90% of the time and sit and sleep.
Or steal equipment.
Yeah, appreciate
Your
your
water
input.
department steals y'all's own equipment. Y'all
It's
can't
like
find it.
He's talking about the valve. Why not leave the shop instead of just sitting there all day and for a water leak or a sewer board to come in and go find it?
It's proven because they've been stealing stuff from y'all and saying they can't find it. They don't know where it went. They get stuff to build fences for their own property. City money. It's proven. Y'all need to investigate it. Y'all need to look deeper into that water department than what y'all do.
I'm happy to look into it. I haven't heard of any of that.
I'm from a different city. You know, I moved down here and I've seen it with my own eyes. I know how a water department runs. I built tanks, built water tanks. We've done it all. And this city is getting screwed by their own employees.
Amen.
And I'm just letting y'all know.
Yeah, that'd be something for Nate to take note of and look into that.
Thank you.
And I
Yeah,
think one of them's been told already about what's going on.
Would you be willing to talk to me after and tell me more specifically what?
You know what's going on, you've been told.
No, I haven't.
Can you have a talk with them?
No.
or was it?
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Because y'all are being wrong with the city of Perry people. I'm here standing up for y'all and these poor people.
So,
Thank you.
on your homes, you should have hot water circulators put in, so the hot water, I live in Fairway, 2 blocks from the water tower. I've got ice water. So if I wanna wash clothes, take a shower, I have to run a lot of water that's wasted to get a temperature. So if, I've lived in a lot of places, I've had 2 houses with hot water circulators that, it's a little electric pump thing that the water line is continuous around back to the water tank. And then when the temperature drops, the little pump comes on and then you have immediate hot water at any faucet.
That would be something to ask those developers, or that would be something to ask the developers. That wouldn't be something that the city would put in. If we were to pass an ordinance like that, then that would require everybody in Perry to now put water, to put that in their homes.
Yeah.
You'd have to redo your mains too.
Right, yeah. And that would put a pretty big burden on everyone in Perry.
Besides, if you're running more water than you need,
No, it doesn't,
Yeah.
I
Right.
think you're helping with the whole problem.
it doesn't go anywhere.
Right. But no, thank you, Tom. So, does anyone have any other questions on the water?
I do want to say to Mr. said, I do believe we can evaluate what you were asking and see what we can do.
Right.
Say, you done, looked like a really good job of street department.
Yes, they did.
Down that house, maybe the water, not 5 miles at one time, but
Right.
Yes.
little chunks.
Right. Over time, like we're wanting to attack the streets. Right. Right.
Good point.
Yeah. And thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we'll have Nate on that. You might not have spoken to Nate before. He's the new city manager. He's been here for less than 6 months. Right?
Yeah, because y'all spending more money on that water plant than y'all need to.
Yeah, a little over 6, but yeah,
Right.
I'm excited to talk to you, learn more about what's going on.
Randy, is water coming out of water towers, is it not, pressure not regulated at the tower? I don't understand the engineering of that and how that.
I don't know that I can answer you. That was just some of the feedback we got from the engineer last meeting.
And that's real, I'm not complaining to you guys, that's real frustrating that we have the infrastructure of towers that we have, and yet we have this situation.
Yes.
Right.
And it looks like to me that you know, that water pressure would be regulated at the, and again, there's engineering that goes into all this, and I understand that totally.
And I think you're right. I think he was referring to just pressure on the system in general.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I get, and you know,
But it is frustrating.
Right. And this is a frustration that we as a council share with you, and that's why we're digging into to look at it.
yeah, I know last year when we got into that situation, you know, and I'm not complaining, we closed down for right at a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I understood totally, and we had to have drinking water.
Right.
And the people in this town have got to understand that this is not your fault. That we haven't been keeping up with the inflation, and now it's come to a head.
Right.
And we have to raise rates, period. What that rate's gonna be, that's what you guys gotta make up our minds.
Right.
But we have to raise rates. because inflation has raised the price of everything.
Right, and we want to look at how we can do strategically to, you know,
But we,
to be able to act quickly, but not be able.
Sure.
Phil, you've had.
Well, Grady hit those two notes. I was just about to say, thanks, Grady. But first of all, I appreciate you guys being here on a night that you don't need to be here just to us bitch. So, secondly, just to quell some of the questions, I think, like you said earlier, complete transparency, stopping the hemorrhage before we put a Band-Aid out there is kind of key. So where those 3 or 4 hemorrhages are, we can sit down and talk about it, you know, not publicly, but then add that, yes, Grady, we do need to add or catch up to the inflation, but putting the horse before the cart. We got to stop some of the bleeding before we put a Band-Aid on it. But yes, I do agree we have to get up a little bit higher. And to touch on another thing that kind of hits a pet peeve of mine is, you know, some of the comments that were made that it's cheaper here and cheaper there, and I'll go to Stillwater to buy this, and I'll go to Stillwater to buy that. As a business owner and a multiple property owner in town, that's what's killing this town. So you got to support your local folks, guys. Otherwise, all your local backbone small businesses are going to close. And
Or invest somewhere.
or invest somewhere else. I'm at that point. Whereas I'm a little bit nervous about completing a couple of buildings that I own now, and I'm going to close another one that I have. So, you know, that's the backbone. If you want your beautiful square to be a destination point, we have to make it a destination point, not them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
You have something there?
Tina, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but did you raise your hand earlier?
Me?
Tina? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I thought I saw it go up. I just wanted to make sure.
You have 5 minutes, Tina.
Sorry.
I wonder how much you could actually raise. I have no idea what would be involved. But just me personally, and I don't know how anybody else would take it, if at the register, you know, they'll say, how much would you like to donate to this cause or that? I just wonder how much I would give to keep our city bill from going up. I would dig into my pocket and put money. I would go ahead and say, oh yeah, take $5, $10 and donate to the cause to help keep our city bill from going up. I don't know what would be involved, I have no idea. But I think a lot of us would rather give up a couple bucks at register when we go through than to have to look at that higher bill.
Well, the city has a
Just a
deal
thought.
right now where you can take a couple bucks down there to the city and they have a fund that you can put money into that'll actually give relief to some of the people that can't afford the electric.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And I like whoever suggested maybe that be incremental. Like, I mean, if it's really gonna just, you know, keep you from being able to take the transit, you know, or something that, you know, some kind of, I don't know how to, you know, propose. I haven't
No,
worked
I
in
hear
social
you.
services.
Right.
But it would be really nice if there was something off the top that went to help people
Right.
that are really, really.
Right. And there are some things that he offers that some folks might know about that they could take advantage of, especially those that are on a fixed income. The city does offer that you can average your line out so that your bill is, you know, averaged out throughout the year. Something that the city could take a look at. From what I've heard from others is that sometimes that might be difficult to get on that program because you have to have been on city utilities for a year to get that average. You know, are there things that we could do as a city to ease that so that those on fixed income could get on that program a little bit quicker? So it's easier to budget your personal finances if you know, okay, my bill's averaged over a year. I know that, you know, each month my bill is going to be about this much, rather than, you know, during the summer it's really high, during the winter it's a little bit lower.
I had somebody just text me a question, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I guess they got some stuff to do and they're not gonna be able to watch much longer. They're just saying about this issue that we have tonight, they're kind of just curious where we're at, because we went so many different roads.
Right.
Are you guys gonna kind of take a look at the feedback that you got from the
Yes.
community?
Yes.
And then just kind of try to come up with the golden number that kind of makes everybody happy, but still kind of facilitates some repairs and come back to us? Or you're just gonna take it to council, vote, and they just need to stay tuned?
No, so we have asked Nate to take a look at this and okay, you know, well, as I mentioned earlier, you know, how can we spread this over X amount of years? What's that take? What risks do we have with that? We do feel like there does need to be an increase. We do need to catch to
I
inflation.
don't think anyone's doubting.
Right. How we're gonna do that, that we do need to look at. You know, we can't do it all at once because that, as you mentioned, that's gonna be a burden. But what the council had requested from Nate is tell us where we need to, what it's gonna take to get there. And now we can look at, okay, let's dial that back and plan, okay, how can we do this over time? But we know the number that it takes to get us to break even with where we're at right now. That we've figured out. Nate has looked at what that's gonna cost. He's taken a look at other cities in the area, where their rates are at, where we compare. Are we lower, higher? On the electric side, yes, we're higher. So he proposed that we bring the electric down to make us more competitive. Our water rates, under where other cities are at.
Can I make just a quick suggestion?
Yeah.
And it may not be a popular one,
Mhm.
but leave the electric rates alone.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Right.
But yeah, a few bucks. I know what it was. It was more an easement to kind of make this pill easier to swallow. But let's not create another issue down the road that we just have to raise it back up and
Right.
then everybody gets all of it again. Let's just focus on the water and the sewer.
Right.
I know the first initial jump is gonna be a little painful and then maybe we can kind of smooth it out over a couple years, but
Right.
I mean, obviously you guys have a way better handle on it and know more about it than any of us, but I'm just telling you, you don't need to do that for me, me personally.
Right. And see, that's what I love about this meeting is that us as a council, we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear from you. We're not just gonna make a decision and leave the citizens of Perry of it. This council wants to be transparent. We want to be involved. We want the community to be involved in our decisions. So that's why we have these meetings. Yeah, Danny, thank you. I really appreciate that.
So one thing I forgot to say about the complete transparency, there is no copy of the budget, okay? You have to make that available. It's not, there is, you know, I've been told it's on the website, it's not. So a complete line, line by line, what's spent where, where is it coming from? All the oopses that we paid for that are under the rug, that's gotta be brought up. Secondly, I have one concerned customer asking me, they don't have city electric, city water like Grady has mentioned, and he pays $57 a month. Is it gonna go up to 72 like you said for residential?
That was in the original proposal.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
That was in the original proposal.
Right.
That was brought to
To
us.
$70 or so? Or is it just gonna be a 14% on top of that, what, that
Yeah,
water?
you're not choosing that figure.
Okay.
Right.
I do think there's a part of that, I don't know if that's where you're headed, Phil, but a part of that conversation we need to have. So historically, anybody who had water or electric that didn't live within the city limits, they got a different rate than what people that live in.
Oh.
Electric has been adjusted, so that is equal now, but we didn't do that with water and sewer, so.
I thought I was told that it was 1.5 times the rates what's always being, and I was told that went away. Is that incorrect, or am I still paying 1.5 times?
On electric, it went away.
No, electric was always the same, it was water.
The only thing we fixed is electric.
So the water wasn't adjusted. So what am I understanding? So if you lived outside of city,
I was never
City.
charged extra on electric. I was
Right.
always charged extra time and a half on water.
right, so if you
Because
lived
I live
outside
outside
of
of city
Perry
limits.
city limits, what is in place right now is that if you're outside of Perry city limits, you're on Perry water, you pay a higher rate.
If you didn't, you were lucky.
I was gonna say, keep your mouth shut.
No, that's true. I'm where he's at. I'm the other side of the boundary with my office and my other building
Right.
next door, and it is.
But that's what's in place right now, correct?
Yeah, when we
So-
talked
so-
Grady, I thought you were talking about electric, that had been fixed,
Electric.
the
Right.
electric part of
But the
it.
water's not.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that my electric rates was the same as everybody else's.
They should have been higher.
Up
If
until
they
about,
weren't, congratulations.
up until about 3 years ago, you should have, don't quote me on the time frame, but when we adjusted electric to make, so anybody that was outside city limits, it was time and a half, we adjusted it to be,
But still, water is still time and a half.
yes, sir. So we-
But is that gonna be adjusted to where it's straight with everybody? I mean, everybody's just gonna be.
That wasn't talked about with the proposal we currently had on the table, so that's something we need to talk about.
Do you
Doesn't have
still
any
have a
customer
special
satisfaction.
rate for total electric houses?
Yes.
We do?
What we, I didn't hear it.
Total electric houses.
There is? I have a total electric house. What are we talking about here?
What was it?
If the different rates, when you have all electric, we have gas. And yes, there are two separate rates for if it's all electric or gas.
Do what?
You mean, I can get my electric cheaper because I'm all electric?
When you sign up, when you come and you do you apply for your utilities. The questions at the very top, it asks, is it all electric or electric with gas?
Okay.
And if you circle the electric with gas, which we pretty much know already from the location.
That's what I used to have.
Then, yes, there's different rates that apply on those. It's not much, but they are a little bit.
It's a difference, okay. I'll
And at certain times of the year, things change also.
Okay.
Chris, what are you talking about? Can you mention a couple of the other programs, like the insulation stuff that
The rebates.
the citizens have an opportunity of?
Well, one of the things that the city does offer, and it's in conjunction with OMPA, is free audits. They come in, they do a complete look at your attic for insulation, they look at your windows. They come in and they actually do a audit on your home and tell you where you need insulation and, you know, different things, and give you all kinds of advice. I don't work very closely with it. Autumn, the billing clerk, usually works with people on that. So if anybody has any questions about those, please contact Autumn. She's gonna love me for saying it, but contact Autumn at City Hall and she will help you get set up those kind
And
of things.
the audit's free,
The
right?
audit is free.
Some rebates on some of the things they suggest.
There is insulation for your attic, if you get that, there are rebates for that. If you contact city that you're gonna do those kind of things, ask for rebates. There are a few rebates. We try to get them out there to the public as best we can. They're usually on the back side of your bill. I encourage people to read the back of your bill. I know a lot of people don't.
I can't read the
I never
front of
used
my
to, I
bill.
promise.
I still don't know.
But I do now.
Sense of the front of my bill.
But read it, there's information on there. A lot of times that's the best way that we have to get things out. We do now use Facebook quite a bit to get information out. We have the bites that we use to try to get information out. You know, we're working really hard and trying to get all this kind of information out. We now have the app. If you don't have the app, get the app. We try to put as much information on it. It is a work in progress, bear with us. The website and the app are new, but we are working really hard to get those where eventually it's just gonna be real easy to do things, but.
Is it possible to put comments on the Facebook thing? I mean, I know you guys. don't want
Actually,
the
comments
crazy
were,
stuff, but
we
some
don't.
people
Comments
like-
are actually suggested by multiple law firms in the city business. It's there for an information highway. A
Yeah,
lot
but
of
that
times
information highway
comments,
isn't transparent. You need to have communication back
if
and
there's
forth.
more information needed, you can always contact us. The only thing that we're doing is putting the information there. We don't have somebody that's gonna sit there and be able to answer all your questions. That's another
But they can
employee.
call in and get the question.
You can call in and ask us any questions you want.
Okay. Because I know that's been a topic, people.
It has,
No
and I've
comment,
heard
no
quite a
comment.
bit.
Yeah.
I will admit, I'm the one that advocated for that.
There's
so.
4,800 people in the city and 0.05% are here today.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a couple people to come.
So did I.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any other discussion or questions about the water rates? I mean, to kind of let you know where we're at as a council, we have asked the city administration to take another look at it and to evaluate. How can we spread this out? You know, what was proposed in the beginning was what's it going to take to get us where we need to be? The 69% on the water was what he researched and found. Now, how do we implement that? How do we implement that over a specific period of time? As I said before, like what risks go into that? The council did not vote on that immediately. We didn't just take what was given to us And we weren't told, hey, here's this, just vote on it, don't ask questions. The council asked questions. We were involved, research. As Randy mentioned, this wasn't something that was brought to us on a Tuesday, and the next day we're just, okay. It's something we've been looking at for a couple months, and we've asked Nate to take this on since he came on back in March. After we experienced the water issues that we had in January, Nate came in March. One of the first things we advised him to do is, hey, our water system needs to get looked at. Take a look at it and tell us what it's going to take to fix it. This is what he brought to us, and so now we're taking another look at it. Okay, how can we spread this out? What's going to be the best way for us to do this without being a huge burden on the citizens? I do apologize that as this was reported to the community and brought forth, it was kind of a shock. And it was reported in a way that it was going to be 69% across the board with everything. And that's, not entirely true. It was 9% on just the water and sewer. But we want to assure you that we are looking at this. This council is involved in this. We're not being told what to do. We're not being told how to vote. We ask questions. We do our research. No, you're fine. And we're not going to put something that is going to be a huge burden on the citizens. But we also want to protect our community, and we want to protect the citizens. We want you to have clean water. We want you to have water. And there are some things that need to happen to make that happen and protect ourselves in the years to come. We can't keep pushing it off because things will only get worse over time. The pipes don't fix themselves. They don't repair over time. We have to go in and repair them, and there's a cost to that. But we're looking at it as a council. I know we ask you to trust us, and that's why you voted the council that we have currently in place to look at those things. Derek, did you have?
I was just going to add that I do believe we'll be talking about this in December, but
Yep.
Me personally, and I think people would share this, that I don't expect that we would have anything be effective before the holiday season in this year. These things would go into effect sometime next year.
Whatever the final, right,
Right, yeah, we're not gonna do it right before Christmas.
that would be harsh.
Yeah, that would be very harsh. But
Are you going to continue to have these town meetings through the year?
on topics like this, I think that would be a good idea. I mean, there's a lot of schedules to work with on that. But when we come to, when we have issues like this, yes, as a council, we want to bring it to the community. We really want to be more transparent, and it's something that we're working towards. Whether or not past councils were, we felt, or the community felt were transparent or not, this current council wants to be transparent. That's why we're having these town hall meetings.
That's great.
We're wanting to update the city's website so that now it's an app. You can have it on your phone. You can get notifications directly. The budget and the audits, that is something that we have asked the city and the IT, Tyson, to work on because we want that available to the community. It shouldn't be difficult to find, and you shouldn't have to file tons of reports and go through hoops to get something like that. It should be available on the app, on your phone. You can pull it up at any time. And we now have that app. This is something that this council is pushing and working towards. It's one of the main topics on our strategic plan. Now, we didn't go over a strategic plan tonight, but in our last meeting, we did. We spent quite a bit of time going over the areas that we feel we need to take a look at. And if those didn't see that, you can go on YouTube, you can go on the city's Facebook page, you can pull up past council meetings. I encourage you to go on our last one and to pull where we went over the strategic plan and take a look at the things that we want to do as a council, that we want our city manager to take on, and the direction that we've given him. Because a lot of the things that are being brought up are issues that we know about and we're experiencing as well as citizens, and we've put that on Nate to start tackling those. How we're going to do that for the next couple of years so that we can start redirecting the city of Perry in the direction it's gone. It hasn't grown in who knows how many years. Right, it's decreased over the years. our housing, we're not doing what other communities are doing. This is something we want to change.
Yeah, but you're taking some pretty solid steps in the
Right.
right direction. I mean, 28 homes is nothing to snooze at.
It's not
plus-
gonna happen overnight.
Plus other
Right.
deals that you got
Right.
coming, so.
Yeah, and these things aren't gonna happen overnight. They're gonna happen over the next, who knows how many years. But council wants to put something in place that's going to help the foundation for future councils. Because we're not gonna be here for forever. But we've got to think ahead as well. How can we protect the city of Perry moving forward?
We got a couple of 3 buckets there on I-35.
Right.
So I'm telling you, 79,000 people June this year walked through Love's.
Mm-hmm.
That's an awful lot of thousands of people.
Yep.
24,000 in Brahms and 29,000 in McDonald's.
Right.
And we do want you guys involved and voices heard.
Yeah.
And I appreciate every one of you coming up for all these meetings and to the mayor and the councils. Is something that we've been talking about is how do we have more town halls? How do we have more communication, get that information out? And we appreciate when you guys are giving us the information too.
Right.
I've lived here 81 years, and I've learned more in the last month than I had all that time, because it just kept quiet. That wasn't necessarily you guys, it was before your time. But we were just kind of told, you go home and shut up, it's not your business.
I'm sure I speak for many when I say we really appreciate that you bringing it to the forefront and giving us a voice.
Well, one other thing about this council is that the town halls, we aren't required to be here.
Right.
I mean, the manager and the mayor can do this all by themselves. But as a council, everybody decided to show up, so we had to put it on an agenda item so we could have we had a quorum, we were here. So just to know that we are here working and want to hear from you, not because we have to, but because we want to.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Making
much.
that decision.
And thank you all for coming out tonight.
We
The
appreciate it.
proposal for increasing electric rates to industrial, what is that initial, what was the initial proposal for industrial?
Nate, do you have that in front of you?
It's
That was to
4
cover
point,
Right.
the decrease.
you're asking the percentage? It was 4 point, let's see.
And that was to help cover the decrease on the residential.
I understand.
Right.
But
4.62.
my concern is, and I've talked to Scott about this, my concern about that, again, is, you know, what's that gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, everything comes with the price. And, you know, I guess I'm gonna take off on another tangent here, but water is gonna become the most priceless commodity
Mm-hmm.
for our generations to come. This meeting here is just a drop in the, quote unquote, a drop in the bucket to what problems are gonna be in the future for our kids, grandkids, and great-grandchildren.
You're a community that can provide it.
That's
You're
exactly
gonna be in the
right.
driver's seat.
My business has catered to multiple small businesses for over 100 years. And I've watched them go. Fairfax is a quick example. If anybody's ever been through Fairfax, that used to be a thriving town, and it is becoming a dust bowl. And Pawnee, without clicks, be a dust bowl. And so that's what you guys are trying to do, is to try to shore up the ship. And I appreciate what you're doing for us. And this, we have got to raise these rates. We've got to keep this, because if we don't have an infrastructure, these people, I can't imagine wanting to build a bunch of homes if I felt that water was going to be an issue. And so I commend people for wanting to build homes and to make that commitment.
Thank you, Grady.
We need to remember too, the ditch was building and they tend to hire 100 employees and they get that finished, so that's causes us to look ahead, to try to make a place for them to stay here and not go somewhere else to live.
Well, it's right, I look out the patio, my patio door at 5:45 in the morning, and I can't get out on the street, because it's a flood people coming. So,
And that's one of the highways coming in.
that's exactly right, Randy, that's exactly right,
If we could put up toll booths.
yeah.
That's one of my other points I've been
Charge them with that.
Just like Lynn said.
I was gonna say.
Hey, I didn't say it.
Did not to pay a buck to come into it?
You get in, you gotta pay for
It's just
that.
All right, well, again, we thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think we've discussed quite a bit. And rather than kind of go around in circles, so anything to add in? All right.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you everybody for coming out. We're gonna close this town hall meeting.
All right.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you.